apologies for the background noise. It's a heat wave and my window's open. So I was asked a question about my treeline video, where
here we are back
in where I show you how I made the billboard at the background of my Macedonia map, roughly by making a sort of set of trees and then using the screenshot function and different views to capture the alpha and the normal. And the question was asked, how do you make the sphere background forest, and where can I download 360 textures? So I thought I would just clarify some stuff there. First of all, I don't know what the sphere bit means, but there's a sort of a ring of trees. So let's just go to Lightwave. You won't know what Lightwave is, but anyway, it's like Blender but different. So if I was to make a ring for a sort of skybox, I may have done this elsewhere, but let's say 20-sided, just reset everything. Doesn't really matter what the size is. You're going to want to have it that sort of ratio, probably. Depends on your texture. So that's a standard cylinder, then invert it, and that is your basic textured skybox if you're going that route. Now I'm going to make a UV map for the texture, which will be cylindrical. And if we go to the UV texture, that has mapped it all the way around to the beginning. And if you have a tiling texture for the skybox, that will go around again. Just going to put on a real texture to show you some other stuff. Okay, so here is one I made earlier. This is a panorama taken at a local park. You can see how it's been stitched together by a special program that stitches together photos. There are different and better programs, but this is mine. I then did some manual processing to cut out the let's see, it's masked, but there's the alpha. So I cut out the landscape and did a lot of cloning, imperfectly it seems, to patch it up and fill in these gaps. And then if I just load it in here, I've got the wrong version. And load image. Okay, so I have now applied a skybox panorama texture, but the aspect ratio is all wrong. So one thing to do is just to resize everything so that it gets into proportion. So that's better. That's probably more like it. But when you have a skybox like that, everything is very close, and that doesn't tend to work. So what I do is to multiply the UVs horizontally by some appropriate scale. So I'm going to go for a 4 times multiplication in the horizontal direction. I then need to resize this to something smaller. So that is a very distant skybox now, because I have repeated the UVs so that it repeats around, but you don't tend to notice that if you've got a lot of stuff blocking it. And that is what I've done in this map, which is in progress. This is my cemetery map, and the background skybox is quite far away. I had used this one. Oh, now I'm confused. Okay, it wasn't the material I changed, it was the cylinder. So I did have this version, but when I started making things at the map boundary, it just looked too near, so I had to wrap it around a few more times to make everything look further away. which also means that there's a bit less give in the skybox in terms of positioning, but that's fine. So that's the first method of making a skybox. The second method is used by this cloudy sky, which is different. This is a cube map where it's not like a normal texture. Let's go to the parent function. So this uses the camera vector. I think I fiddled it there, and then it plugs into a cube, texture cube. And this is a different sort of mapping of a texture. It's not 2D, it actually maps onto a 3D shape. I've done a video on this, on how to turn a source material into the appropriate format, and it's a bit tedious. Basically, it is a separate kind of thing, a cube map, and these tend also to be HDRI, high, I can't think of the word, but the exposure is funny as well. But this, I think, is a straightforward, just normal cube map. And if you apply that material to anything, it will, let's stick it on there. Let's find a brick texture. You can see it's not using the properties of the mesh at all, it's just plotting the texture according to where you're looking. So those are here I've combined this sort of wraparound texture, which you can make with the video I showed you on how to make a tree line, but actually this is using photographic source material that's stitched together. That's really the only way you can do it here. The Macedonia technique wouldn't be like this, so I suppose it's the third way, is that you get a little piece of tree line and you stick them together in repeating ways and then hide it with actual foliage. So that's the third way to get your skybox boundary. As to where you get these textures, well, I take pictures, I make mine. I have in some cases used a cube map. You can get free cube maps, they're quite specific, so let me take a look. So I'm not endorsing this site in particular, but a very quick search for free cube map gives you things like this, which have limitations. I think just the resolution is not high enough to really cut it in current tech, but I still use them where I need to. But you can find any number of options. I think these work better as reflection cube maps, that is to say, not as a skybox, but if you have a foresty map, you could use this to reflect trees and any reflective surfaces, that kind of thing. That's probably what it's more limited to these days. That is quite a big one. But yeah, so you can find cube maps. I don't think there's a ready supply of skyline, tree line stuff, but you can make your own. I mean, you just, as I showed in the video, you can just plonk down bits of foliage and make your own using the video I've shown you. Here's another sort of thing. So this is a technique similar to Macedonia. It's used in map, but where I've constructed a 2D texture from a photograph of bushes, and then you go down, and then you mask it with actual foliage. And I've got some landscape grass producing sort of blackberry bushes, so actually when you're up close you don't notice, unless you're looking for it, you don't notice the join, and that could be done better. But that's the technique I used in Macedonia to get the tree line. In that case it was generated, in this case it's one I've done from photos, and sticking stuff in front, so it's whatever's good for the job. So we have that 2D tree line on a plane with the textured ring and then the cube map sky. So I've used all three just to whatever's appropriate to get the best result. And obviously it is a work in progress, and I need to reset that back to what that was. There we go. So I hope that makes some sort of sense. If not, do comment and I will try to reply.